Ciao ragazzi, welcome to another episode of Serie Sitdown. I'm your host, Richard Carmen. Obviously, no Frank Crivello in the house tonight. Real quick, our friends over at Calcio Connection, Alex Dono, those guys, and Jerry Mancini, they do a great job. But, Alex has this thing called Onside Radio, and he often has Frank Crivello on the show, and it's two key people are missing from that show, and it's myself. And I'm going to bring on my co-host because I think we need some alone time. I'm bringing in Jerry Mancini, co-host of the Calcio Connection, man. How are you doing tonight, man?
Fantastic. I would have been better if Milan had won today. And that's coming from a Lazio fan because I invested an hour and a half to watch this team, and I felt like I was watching Lazio.
Yeah, man. It was tough, man. Mark Morgan is in the house. How you doing, Mark? Jerry, the man who not only co-hosts Calcio Connection, but also a man who writes articles for pretty much everybody, including World Football Index. It's a great website where you can check out everything on articles and anything football related. Plus, you can check out other podcasts besides ours, like the European Football Show and the South American Football Show. So make sure you give that a follow, Jerry. Man, it was a crazy weekend, huh? A lot of disappointment going on this weekend. Some big games, obviously the Derby della Capitale, that's big for you. Obviously Derby d'Italia with Juve Inter, and then a big game in terms of, Champions League spots and as well as relegation, Jerry. Lots of stuff. It's getting down to the wire here with another week to go. Hair pulling stuff from pretty much every game, huh?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I just don't get how Milan doesn't book their spot today. Like, that's the most frustrating thing. Like, Napoli's actually taking care of their backyard, and they look really convincing. I can't see them losing to Verona, especially after how they lost to Crotone on Thursday. Like, that kind of performance really was shocking. And then they play tomorrow as well. So,
yeah.
I just don't see how Napoli loses now with Juventus. They're like a cat. They got 9 lives. That's why
they do, and that's a sign of a champion. Meaning, 9 times reigning champions. At least historically in the past 9 years or so, every time you counted Juventus out, they'd always find a way back in. Let's start with the reigning champions, or former champions, I should say, and hosting against the new champions, Inter. This is an interesting game. Obviously, a big game. Obviously, a huge game not only in Italy but also in Europe as well. Lots to get into in this one. Let's just start with the goals first. The goals that happened. You had first goal happened actually in the 24th minute. Ronaldo gets a penalty, but the play that leads to this, it's Darmian taking down Chiellini in the box. Jerry, was that a penalty for you?
Absolutely, it's clear and obvious foul. That's what kind of convinces me why it's a penalty. There's no ifs, ands, and buts, and you can see Darmian actually accepts it and knows that he's at fault, and he has his arm wrapped around him.
Yeah, this game that is full of controversies, as you'd expect in a big game like this, especially with Juventus and Inter involved. This, I agree with you. I think this was this was certainly a penalty. There's no arguments on my end either. I thought that was a correct call. We would see this would not be the last of the penalties in this game, Jerry. 11 minutes later, a penalty would be called. Or first, Lautaro Martinez gets taken down in the box. Nobody knows what happens, and we're like, "What? Why is he rolling around the ground?" They go to replay. It looks like De Ligt steps on the ankle of Martinez, and a penalty is called. Correct call for you?
Yeah, it's accidental, but at the same time, you got to be aware of what you're doing. And when his foot goes down on Lautaro, it's a foul. People are gonna say it's soft, which it is, but 99% of the time, it's always been given. So I don't see a different situation there.
No, yeah. At first, when it first happened, I'm like, what the heck's he rolling around? I didn't see anything. But when you watch the replay, it's pretty clear. De Ligt steps on the ankle of Martinez, and he goes down, and a penalty gets awarded, rightly so, I think. And of course, Lukaku is going to step up as Ronaldo just put it away for Juventus this minutes earlier. Lukaku puts it away. It's 1-1 at this point. And it's a back and forth game. This is more wide open than I think Inter would like. You look at the statistics in the first half, it was pretty, at least from the shots perspective, it was heavily leaning towards Juventus. We thought it was going to go into halftime by that score 1-1, Jerry, but Some play on the right hand side by Juventus. Eventually leads the ball out to Cuadrado. He hammers it home, deflects off Christian Eriksen, goes right past Handanovic. That's a gut punch to Inter going into the halftime, Jerry. Big goal there by Cuadrado, who I think had a pretty good game in this one.
I thought he was their best player.
Yeah,
He's taken a lot of criticism this year, but playing on the right side in the midfield probably takes him away from his weakness of defending and gets the best out of him in offensively side. Like, I thought he was very effective, consistently delivering crosses, putting balls into good areas, scoring 2 goals. Like, I've always thought this season he's always been good with the ball moving forward, but on the defensive end, like I said, he's very poor at defending, and he's 30 in assists with, I believe, 10. So that kind of tells you what he's been able to consistently produce with this team. So that going into the halftime with that kind of goal kind of demoralizes Inter and kind of gives the momentum to Juve that they needed. And on a side note, a lot of people are calling out Samir Handanovic for not making the save. I don't agree. That's everything happens so suddenly. And if a ball takes like a deflection, you're not really ready for that. How do you react to that? And everything's going so quick. So that's one goal where I won't fault Samir, and it's just some luck at the end of the day for Juve, which they always get.
Yeah, I think if that shot had gone directly towards Handanovic and he whiffed on it like he did, absolutely you're going to give him a lot of criticism. But I think when it deflects, people don't understand how much a deflection can really change things for a goalkeeper, because it's so instant that yes, it was kind of in his area where he probably should have had it, but because of the deflection, he threw his whole timing off, threw everything off, and it's hard to make really him at fault for a deflection like that. I mean, it was a thumper of a shot by Cuadrado, someone who can bring it, and so yeah, it's tough to give him criticism in this one, though I saw a lot of criticism in that first half for Handanovic, like you said. But 2-1 at halftime, many people thought, this is going to be done now. Juve are going to set up shop, and that's it for the game. And I'm like, this is not Allegri's Juventus, Jerry. We've seen this before. If it was Allegri's team, yes, you can see 2-1 for the remainder of the game, but it's not. And Juve have given up lots of goals this season. And so did you think that more goals were going to happen? Because I certainly did.
No, for sure. And this is an Inter side that doesn't want to lose the derby either. So I think that's the biggest factor here, is that even though you're in first place, there's always pride on the line and always having bragging rights. So going in the second half, I didn't see Conte just telling his men stop playing.
Yeah, that's an interesting point you bring up too, because a lot of people thought that, Conte is going to do his old team a favor, let them win. Inter have won the title, they're not going to care. It's like, no, Inter and Juve are huge rivals. They're the biggest rivals in Italy. I mean, Inter and Milan are rivals, but Inter-Juve is even a bigger rivalry, and Conte is going to try to get one over on his own team every day of the week. So I didn't see that. I didn't see Inter laying down for Juve in this one, and I think you hit the nail on the head that Conte and Inter were disappointed to be down 2-1 at halftime, and you knew they were going to come out in that second half. Things got interesting and spicy in that second half. That's when the controversy started creeping up. 10 minutes into the second half, Bentancur, who's already on 1 yellow, he and Lukaku collide. Lukaku goes down. Referee gives a second yellow to Bentancur. Looking at the replay, Jerry, I thought it was more of a shoulder-to-shoulder, and I thought it was a pretty harsh red to give Bentancur. What were your thoughts? Did you think it was a second yellow on Bentancur?
That normally is never given a yellow card, because that's just a fair challenge on two players trying to win the ball. That's all it is. And for Lukaku's physicality and the size of him, I don't see what's wrong with that kind of challenge. Right. He's not really going in cleats with it on his leg or anything like that. So it's not a reckless play.
Right. Yeah, and I agree. And I mean, both of us, I think, were probably in the the camp that wanted to see Juventus lose. But we both think that this was a harsh call. I mean, I agree with you. I think, it's a contact sport. Two guys were clearly shoulder to shoulder. And Lukaku's a big man. Yeah, he goes down. But I mean, and that's a football play right there. I didn't see a yellow in that at all in that play. And so I thought that was a little harsh for Juventus to go down to 10 men. We've seen at times that, when teams go down to 10 men, either they play much, much better or they play a lot worse. Juve were pretty much on par. Maybe they got a little bit better once Bentancur went out. But the game kept going back and forth. We had some chances. Matias Vecino came in around the 80th minute or so. Shortly as he came in, he had a header on Wojciech Szczesny. Szczesny made a great save. It didn't seem like it was going to be Inter's day, but then in the 83rd minute, nice cross, and I believe it's from Perisic. Players collide in the box. It was Lukaku and Chiellini. Ball goes into net, own goal. Referee calls a foul on Lukaku originally, Jerry, but then it goes into VAR and decides that it's actually Chiellini on the foul. Own goal would stand. What were your thoughts on that? Did you think it was actually a foul by Lukaku or Chiellini on that play?
Neither foul. I just think it's poor defending by Chiellini. That's what it is. Because when you see the positioning of where Chiellini is and how he's holding him, which he doesn't need to, he has the position on him. He's got the inside. There's no need for him to make that foul in the first place or just challenge him like that. All he has to do is head the ball to safety, and that's it. He over-analyzed. I think he made it more complicated than what it really was, and ends up with an own goal. And you're seeing that Chiellini is no longer the player that he once was. He's really struggled. And if he can't defend a guy like Lukaku, I don't see him being in the Euro roster for this summer. He shouldn't be in the roster. We know that he will be because that's just how stubborn these guys are. They go with name over whatever you want to go with. It's just the
form or whatever.
Yeah, but it was the right decision. But you'll be getting to the next one where I don't agree. So go ahead.
I agree with the call on this one. I thought Chiellini certainly, you can watch it. His hand was all over the jersey pulling down Lukaku. So I thought that ended up being a right call by VAR. So that made it 2-2 at that point. And then as Mark Morgan hints here in the chat, he says the Calvarese disaster class would continue. In the 88th minute, Cuadrado coming down the right-hand side goes 1-on-1 against Perisic. Cuadrado goes down in the box, Jerry. A penalty is awarded where he converts it, makes it 3-2. But before the goal, was that a penalty?
No, it wasn't. Absolutely not. I looked at it this morning as I was writing my winners and losers piece just to see the contact on Perisic, and he doesn't make any contact on Cuadrado. And what it bothers me is that this didn't go to VAR, and the referee did not look at the play. That's what bothers me. There's the consistency. Like, you go VAR, let's not go to VAR all of a sudden. I'm like, why? Because with 3 minutes left, it doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah. And then to hear Juventus fans say, "Oh, it's always us that let the referees try to help us." Well, sorry guys, when there's 3 minutes left in the game, and all of a sudden, let's go VAR, and skip VAR all of a sudden. Mark's right. It's a complete joke because Perisic doesn't make any attempt on his knee. He makes a good football play and wins the challenge with the ball. I don't see what's wrong here. Like, it's not even the challenge that bothers me. It's the fact that the referee just neglected to go to VAR in such a crucial point in the game.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Because, I mean, like, you're watching the play, Perisic is coming down, he's just continuing his run, and Cuadrado tries to make the cut in, and he initiates a contact, then falls over. I thought it was a complete joke of a call, and those calls will happen where the referee will miss it. I think the big thing was, why didn't they go to VAR? Was VAR in Calvarese's ear? Did he ignore them? Did it not go to? What was the reason for not looking at you? I mean, a game of this magnitude with so much on the line, go to VAR just to double check it. Why not? What's the big deal? What's it gonna hurt? You gonna make the right call? Woo, whoop-de-doo. I didn't understand why this was not reviewed again. Many people that was the main complaint. I think the argument I saw, other than the bias that you were talking about, that people are talking about, that Juventus bias. I thought you have VAR. This is one of the few leagues that VAR actually works fairly well. Go to it. And the fact they didn't do it was despicable, I thought. And so the Calvarese disaster class, pretty much closed out there. We did see a second yellow in the 92nd minute by Brozovic, a second yellow, Jerry. I thought that was absolutely a second yellow as opposed to the Bentancur. Brozovic clearly angry, went and took out his frustrations on his man and got the second yellow, so no qualms by me. Thoughts overall? I mean, this game certainly lived up to the hype, right? It was a 3-2 for Juventus. They get a much-needed win. Big 3 points where everybody thought that they would be out of UCL after this. What were your thoughts after this match?
I think when we did a live yesterday, and Alex Donald said it perfect. The fact that they had clinched the Scudetto with 4 games remaining just shows how important that was. How the game turned out yesterday, and what it could have done to their season had they needed the 3 points yesterday. So that was the most important thing, was that they wrapped up the Scudetto as quickly as possible because of poor decision making. You know what? You're right. The derby, it lived up to the hype, even though that Inter had very little to play for. But they showed professionalism yesterday, where they tried it hard to basically end Juve's chances of a Champions League spot. Fortunately, it didn't go that way, but I give credit to Inter to showing up and just playing a very hard game.
Yeah, they're playing like the champions they are. They want to go out with a bang, right? And I think, like you said, I think that good thing this title was already wrapped up, because had this been a game where winner gets the title, that kind of situation, oh my goodness, the controversy would have been through the roof. You'd have heard Juve haters all over the place and this and that and match. We didn't need all of that. Good thing the title was wrapped up, and it was a good game, but obviously not without controversy in this one, Jerry. Inter, they had we knew the game plan going into this was that they're going to let Juventus have the ball, play on the counter as they've done many times this season. But it seemed like they gave too many opportunities to Juventus. Inter hasn't really given many goals this season, especially 3 in a game. We saw Juventus, with everything on the line, giving their best effort. Say what you want about Calvarese, whether he was the 12th man or not, but at least both teams really fighting it out, Jerry. And now when we thought the top 4 was maybe going to be secured after this weekend, it's as wide open as ever, isn't it?
No, absolutely, and someone has to get knocked out of a Champions League spot, and 2 will make it. That's what it's going to come down to. And I don't want to say it, but I feel like either Napoli or Milan are the team that are going to get effed. I don't know who it's going to be. I actually, you know what? I like to see who is going to be appointed the referees for these 3 games. I think that's the biggest factor here.
Calvarese? No, I'm just kidding.
I'm just curious to see who gets appointed as referee. I think that's the biggest question here. Like,
I saw a poll go on Twitter today or yesterday where it's like, who's the most hated referee? And it doesn't matter who you're going to call, because there's going to be controversy no matter who they pick, right? So, yeah, it's tough, man. And it will be interesting to see who that referee is, Jerry. But if you had to pick a man of the match for Juventus, Calvarese aside, who else would you pick as a man of the match?
I would say Quadrado.
Yep.
Like we said, he was my man of the match. And if I had to pick one for Inter, I gone with Skriniar, just thinking that he's been their best defender this season on a consistent basis. And I thought he was pretty good yesterday, even though they conceded 3 goals. And none really were his fault, or for the most part, their back line's fault, other than the second goal. So it's very hard. I thought Brozovic was probably one of the worst players in the game. Bentancur, and aside from his yellow, was pretty poor.
Yep.
Just hasn't really fit in that midfield compared to last year, where they could have sold him for a good 30-40 million probably. And now his value is lucky if you can get 10 million for him, for how poor he's been. But I think there's a clause in his agreement with Boca Junior where they get a percentage. I didn't know that. I think Alex was telling me this yesterday, so I didn't even know that. So that's probably why they haven't considered selling him.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point there, and I think Wojciech Szczesny also had a pretty good game as well. Had some key saves. The save on Vecino on point blank was pretty big as well, especially that time of game. So yeah, lots of good play going all the way around. Let's move on to another game that's more near and dear to you, Derby della Capitale. It was a big game, Jerry. Lots on the line. I mean, you guys are obviously trying to get to that Champions League spot as well. You guys had a glimmer of hope to get in there, and Roma just been really hurting lately. They've not played well at all. They've had some big games here and there, but with the games when they matter, they have not performed well. Looking at the lineups in this one first for the host, Daniel Fusato in goal. That was a surprise for me to see that. But then you're looking at the rest of the lineup. You had Karsdorp, Mancini, Ibanez, and Perez, and back in the midfield you had Cristante back to his normal midfield position with Darboe, Mkhitaryan, Pellegrini, and El Shaarawy, all led by Edin Dzeko. Fairly strong lineup in this one, Jerry. I think in terms of Roma's lineup, I was surprised by the insertion of Daniel Fusato, but also by Ibrahima Darboe. I thought I was surprised to see him in there, but I thought he had a good game in this one at least.
Actually, yeah, he did, and I think that on a few occasions he kind of had the better of Luis Alberto, where he won some challenges. And
yeah,
I remember in the second half where he tries to get by him and clean challenge, and he falls to the ground. So, it was where Roma is in the season. I don't see any surprises here. This is Fonseca going out with a change, and there's not much left at stake for him. He knows that there's only 2 games left for him, so it's the decision making becomes, I guess, a lot less easier, and you can make a little more risky moves and say, hey, I'll put Fusato in goal and see what we get. Yeah. And it actually paid off. I
agree. I think he did actually played pretty well, and you got to remember also that for most of these Roma players, this is an audition for Mourinho coming in. He has some familiarity with some of the guys like Smalling and Mkhitaryan, but these other guys, they want to make an impression on the new manager coming in, and so having a big game like this in a derby match will go a long ways, I think, for that. And Fusato and Darboe made some great impressions, I thought, in this one. Looking at the lineup for your guys, Pepe Reina in goal once again. You went with Maricic, Acerbi, and Radu in the back with Lazzari, Milinkovic-Savic, Leiva, and Luis Alberto, Lulic, and then up top, Immobile with your boy Morici. Thoughts on Morici in the lineup, Jerry?
Depressed. If you ever want another side to beat Lazio, all you have to do is put Vedat Morici in. That's all you have to do. And I hate how people say that Immobile was complaining that he had to be up front with Morici and he didn't show good body language. And when you're playing on a consistent basis with Correa and you've built that chemistry, Caicedo, each player has complemented each other. Whereas Morici doesn't compliment any player on this team. I'm sorry. That's the nature of it. Inzaghi got it all wrong from the beginning. From starting Lulic on the left side where he was beat on multiple times, his speed is no longer, he doesn't have pace. So that didn't help.
No.
And then you have Morici who lacks pace as well and couldn't beat a Roma defender if his life depended on it. The guy who should have started was Andreas Pereira.
Yeah.
That's the guy I don't understand why he didn't start from the beginning. That's frustrating. And the only thing I can think of is 2 things I was saying today myself. One, you're basically showcasing Morici now to try to boost his value and try to sell him.
Yeah, I see that.
Or 2, because he's under contract and you need to see where it goes for the future. Whereas Pereira is on loan. But if that's the case, the latter, I don't like it. Because even if you're on contract, if you're on loan, you specifically wanted the player in your squad. So it shouldn't matter how he's there.
Yeah.
If he benefits the match much better, you go with him. Look how Lazio had changed as soon as he came in. Immobile had 2 quality chances.
No, he did. And I think this is a derby match too. Yeah, it's end of the season. You want to see who's going to be there for next year, or who fits in better, or whatever. Who's a permanent guy, who's a lone guy. But ultimately, this is a derby, and your ultimate goal should be to beat your rival, and you field your best 11. I think Simone Inzaghi was maybe overthinking it too much. I mean, I don't know what was going on here. He tried to tinker too much with this thing and didn't really keep it simple, I think, and it showed in the game. I mean, obviously you guys had a lot of chances in this game, but ultimately the lineup did not work out, as you mentioned, with Morici and some of the other guys who started. It just didn't work out at all, and for whatever reason, in this kind of game, Inzaghi just didn't stick to his guns, didn't stick to what he's used to, and it tried something different, and it's not the right game to do that, I don't think. The game, unlike the previous derby that we just talked about, this was less controversial, very tight as you'd expect in a big derby game. It probably didn't take until about the quarter-hour mark where Sergej Milinkovic-Savic pounced on Ibanez's error. I don't know what the heck Ibanez was doing, but he feeds Luis Alberto. Fusato, on his mark, gets up, makes a save on Luis Alberto. First big save of the match, Jerry. I thought you guys were going to get a goal right there. That was a terrible, terrible error by Ibanez. I have no idea what he was doing on that play.
No, absolutely. And Ibanez has done this a lot this year. He did this in the last derby as well, where he conceded the first goal on the turnover, which led to Immobile scoring. But it's a Lazio side that fails to score when their chances have come in the last couple of games. That's basically what it comes down to. This was the second clean sheet against them in the last 3 games, which was absurd because I think they went on a streak of like 19 games where they were able to score at least 1 goal on a consistent basis. So, and then as much as the Luis Alberto chance was kind of frustrating that he was unable to score, and I think he could have made a pass too on that.
Yeah.
I think he could have made a pass as well, but I guess the shot was there. But the biggest factor was Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, if you recall that one, where he tried to chip the ball over the goalkeeper instead of just making a perfect shot on target.
In the 35th, yeah. I don't know what he was thinking there. I mean, looked like Zaza on a penalty kick there, right? Goes right over the bar. I'm like, what are you doing? It's a simple goal for you. I'm like, you're trying to be too cute here, trying to get a top 10 play goal. And I mean, we've seen this too many times in this sport, right? Where you have a great opportunity, you should have scored, you miss, and what happens? It goes down the other way. And it wasn't right immediately, but in the 42nd minute, Roma would get their first goal there. It was a Immobile turnover, and you never like to hear that, right? But El Shaarawy on the counterattack feeds Dzeko, who feeds Mkhitaryan. 1-0. Mkhitaryan getting his 12th goal this season, Jerry. It sucks when you get a goal against, obviously, but when you get a counter goal, when it happens so quick, lightning quick, when your guys are out of position, that's got to hurt really, really a lot compared to when you're just a poor play.
No, absolutely, and it's been the same case. We lost to Fiorentina with a poor goal to open the game. And now we lost to Roma with a poor goal to open the game. When I look at why they're not in a Champions League spot, and everything went their way, let's be real here.
Yep.
Because Milan dropped the game today. Juventus dropped the game last weekend. So the cards are all in play. Now, what happens? They didn't do their job. It's just frustrating. And Sherby, he was very poor on that play. And I thought he was poor from the get-go, and he has not been the same like he was last year. He's on a yellow, so what's he going to do? He's not going to haul him down the box. And I don't even know how I think it's Dzeko in the box who scores, right?
He assists the Mkhitaryan for that goal.
Mkhitaryan, that's right.
Yeah.
And how is he wide open as well?
Yeah.
Why is no one picking him up? Everyone's kind of criticizing Acerbi. That's fine. But he's in a position where he can't take a foul. He has been in a corner where he kind of forces him into making the pass. And neither Radu and I believe Lazzari as well, if I'm not sure. But I haven't looked at the replay of the goal. I didn't even know that because when I'm so caught up in the game, I haven't even looked at the highlights. I didn't even know that Immobile actually conceded the turnover, which I have to look. But there you go. That's where you get the bad side of Immobile now, because he's trying to do more than what he's supposed to, because his partner up front is just not good enough.
Yeah.
He's not going to say that. That's not what's going to come out of his mouth, but it's just a guy who's trying to make his game harder than what it really should be.
Yeah, and it's interesting because another guy who does something like this is actually his teammate on the Azzurri, Andrea Belotti. Belotti has the same issues when his teammates are not up to par to what he wants. He sees them drop back deep and then tries to create more opportunities. And more often than not, he's causing some problems for his teams because he's in a position, he's out of position, tries to force something, and then it gets turned over and it leads to a counter. So when your teammates are not giving you the ball, you try to get the ball, especially if you're a striker and you want the ball. And then sometimes you force plays and it happens like that. So the quick goal there on the counter. Really, up to that point, it was really. I mean, though the game was still 0-0 at that point, I thought you guys had majority of the better opportunities in this game. Roma obviously had some good possessions, nice plays, but I think you guys had looked more dangerous of the ones to score in that up to that point. Would you agree? Or do you see another way?
I see it differently. I see that Lazio had chances, but not good enough, and it took too late. And,
Sure.
and as much as Immobile's chance was nice, and he got stopped, he was offside.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't have counted either way. So that chance kind of would have been ruled out. And then Marici was kind of offside by a hairline, and there was no flow for Lazio in the first half an hour. They were so slow. The build-up play, I don't know why they were taking so long to make passes and move upfield. It was very frustrating because the biggest takeaway for me is that they were impressive against Milan and they played very well against Genoa except for the last 5 minutes. And then they follow up with 3 terrible performances against Fiorentina. Parma, they had a miracle. And then yesterday they were just so not driven in this game. As Sergei Milinkovic-Savic was the best player in my opinion, and he was effective in all areas. And as the game progressed, he kind of became fatigued, and that's where you see at the 85th minute where you're down 2-0, and for health reasons and just precautionary, you take him out with the last substitution. So it's just there is no blend to this lineup where there were enough chances created. I thought Roma had the better chances and they just lacked finish. That was the only problem for them. They missed so many quality chances in the second half that as the game grew on, their confidence grew as well.
Yeah, and Roma were certainly the more clinical of the two, right? I mean, Pedro comes on late and he gets that goal in the 78th or whatever. So, I mean, yeah, it was. I agree about your point about SMS being the best player of the game, probably for you guys. I think the pass of the game was when Luis Alberto in the 35th that you talked about, where he made that pass to Milinkovic-Savic and he missed that shot. That was a great pass that Luis Alberto made. But overall, I think Sergei Milinkovic-Savic was the best performer really for you guys in that game. But Roma, they as a team they were much better. They seemed to be more in sync with each other, finding each other, good passing and going around. Just really well done, and it was nice for me at least to see Cristante back in the midfield position where he's accustomed to playing. I know a lot of Roman fans will say that he's played decent, as a defender, but I haven't seen it honestly. I don't know about you, but I haven't seen it. So when he's in the midfield, he can be more of himself. He doesn't have to think about it too much. His natural instincts take over, and I thought he had a good game overall. So. What are your thoughts on Cristante as a defender versus a midfielder? Curious on your thoughts, because both Frank and I agree that he's terrible at defending.
He's not Marco Parolo.
This is true.
I don't like it. I don't like playing players out of position. Aside from Adam Maricic, who has really played in every position this year and has really been amazing at left wing back, right wing back, right center back. It's very few players that you see are able to transition like he did. For Cristante, I don't think he's a center back. He's just all over the place. Frank is judging.
Frank is in the house apparently. He's not on the show because we kicked him off. No, Frank has got something to do tonight. That's why Jerry's helped me out tonight. But Frank is scoring us tonight, so hopefully he scores us better than Calvarese. That's all I can say.
No, you're right. Cristante shouldn't be playing as a center back. His positioning is terrible. He runs all over the place. He's being caught out so many times. Yeah. He's conceded so many goals. I guess you could play a midfielder out of position out in midfield. That's fine because he doesn't expose himself. In the back end, it's very iffy because you really need a strong forward defense line, like in order to do their job right. And of his physicality and his stature, I don't think he's suited to be playing as a center back personally, but that's just me.
Now let's shift the talk from center back for Roma to center back for Lazio, and in particular Acerbi, who's someone who's been a rock for you guys. He looked very weak in this game. Many times he got beaten by guys, not only Dzeko, but several other guys. He didn't have the strongest of games, Jerry. Is this just a blip on the radar, or is this something where you got to really start getting worried and maybe start thinking about this summer looking for a center back to bring in to help him out, or maybe even eventually replace him? What are your thoughts on Acerbi overall?
Well, I actually saw a tweet yesterday that since he met his girlfriend, his performance hasn't been the same. So I didn't even know that.
It's like Çalhanoğlu. I'm just kidding.
I don't know if that's even true, but I started laughing when I read that. I thought that was pretty unique. But a lot of Lazio fans were upset with him. At the end of the day, it's on Inzaghi. He's on a yellow. You take off Maricic, you take off Radu. They're not on a yellow. Why do you? The one guy who should have stayed on with Maricic, if anything, because of he threw his water bottle in disgust, and he was really pissed off. And as much as you love Acerbi, you sometimes can't depend on your best players, and you need to hope that others step up. Yeah. That's just the reality. And it came back. Okay, well, his second yellow didn't really matter, but he was nowhere near the player he could be when he conceded a yellow in the 23rd minute. So as for Acerbi overall, I think he's been poor this year. Maybe it's the fact that he's been overused in the last couple of years now, and the minutes are starting to pile up on him. I do believe he picked up an injury during the game as well. It was in the second half when he slid early. And he kind of pulled something if you see it. So that could have hurt him as well. If you know that's the case, though, and you see that, you got to come out. Yeah, like there's no need to further injure yourself and kind of risk your euros as well. So I like Acerbi, but you're right. They do need another center back. Radu, I thought Radu was our best defender yesterday in the back line. He looked like he was 25 instead of freaking 34. And this was the issue going into the season. We signed Wesley Hoot. And then we get Matteo Musacchio, which I didn't think it was a bad decision on a Serie A level, not on a Champions League level.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Even if you play him in certain games, like a Fiorentina last weekend, and you shift Maricic down to the left side because Lazzari had the fever. Why are you starting a player who has a fever and he's not well? Yeah. Those are the decisions that hurt our season, and really frustrates me because you're starting Maricic in the back and you got a center back, or not, you got a defender who's on the bench who can be playing. It's these things, and what happens now is you're using guys like Acerbi over too much, and I don't know. I just think that Acerbi could be better if he was managed more properly this year, with the whole condensed schedule, with the Champions League on top. If Milan's to go to the Champions League next year, just to say, I would hope that they would strengthen their squad much more compared to what Lazio did.
Yeah, I mean, David makes a point in the chat that, it could just be his age, that he's declining. He's 33 now. Not everybody can be like Kiar, who's 34 and seems to be getting better. But it's a position that is very, very important. You mentioned how, Inzaghi probably should have pulled Acerbi. Yes, he's your captain. Maybe he's one of your team guys, but you sometimes have to take those guys off, right? Look at Milan with Romagnoli. Romagnoli's the captain. He is a guy who's a leader on the team, and Pioli benched him. He wasn't playing well, and sometimes you have to do that for your star players to maybe get the point across, or just sit him in general and find someone else. man, you guys may not have somebody else, a guy who, you thought you had, coming into this year, Marash Kambula, ends up joining your rivals. And he ends up playing. He comes in for under 38th for Ibanez, and he had a decent game. I thought someone who had a lot of potential. Obviously, last year with Hellas Verona, I think having finding another center back out there this summer is important for you guys, and for anybody who has either Champions League aspirations or wants to get into the top four, they need to have some depth. You can't just, we've seen this with you guys in the past where you guys had strong 11 players, but maybe not so much on the bench side. I think you guys need to work on getting some better depth players and maybe eventually someone to take over Acerbi's spot. He's 33, as David mentioned, and, finding some younger guys or at least guys who can complement him, right? And so that I think that'll be an area that you guys should focus in on. Obviously, getting rid of Marici. I would assume you guys are going to get rid of him, or you think you guys are going to keep him this year? Or going into next year?
So I'm not sure. A colleague of mine, Nando, actually sent me a picture today of Lazio's transfer market in the last 2 years.
Okay.
And as much as people call Lotito cheap, when you're not making smart investments, I think that the cheapness got to go out the window, and you got to say this is not a Juventus, Inter, Milan side where they can spend, we'll say 200 million to 150. Yep. Without FFP and all the issues. Let's just say, okay? You got a guy, Marici, who's 18.5 million. Lazzari, who was 14 million. Vavro, who was 11 million, now 14 million because we, in his clause about Champions League and qualifying and making to the round of 16. Okay. So that went up. Fares, 8.5 million. There's 4 players there. That's almost 10, 20, 30, 40, almost 50 million right there. And only one has panned out well. And that doesn't take into effect that Hoot was 1 million, Akpro was 2 million, Johnny was 2 million on loan. You got Pereira, who was on a loan and basically didn't even play that much and was supposed to be a big factor. So Musacchio, well, he cost 0 million, he cost 0, but his wages still. And then you have Escalante and then. There's just not enough quality there for all the signings. It's not good enough. And I think it's the bigger issue is Vavro and Marici, where one's on loan and the other is just a waste of space, in my opinion. But it's 2 bad years of transfer markets that has really hindered them now. And who knows what's going to happen with Tade. I know that there was kind of a Lotito has not been impressed with him, and I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't come back next year.
Yeah, and you're talking about spending, and a manager who's coming in next year for Roma, Mourinho. You would imagine that he had something in his contract where he says, "I have to be able to spend some money just to reinforce my team." An issue for Roma this season has been the defense. Now, obviously, in this game, they looked very, very good. Maybe you guys helped them out. There could be many factors. Obviously, Daniel Fusato played a big game as well. I'm curious how he factors into the starting goalkeeper merry-go-round going in the future with Mourinho. Maybe Mourinho's going to be impressed by this. Who knows? But, Mancini's obviously someone who's going to be, you would think, is going to be around. He's a good player. I see him being a big role for Roma and the Azzurri going down, in the future. Ibanez, he's had up and down, mostly downs this season. Chris Smalling had started very well and then kind of faded away, whether it's injury or not. I think Mourinho's going to bring in another defender for sure. Roma have a really strong midfield. I think I've been talking about how good they play this year. They keep possession. They're fast. Mkhitaryan is just a revelation this year coming back, and it's really great to see with Roma in that regards. But I think if they can find a center back to kind of complement some of the guys they have, really solidify them. This is one of the better defensive support performances they've had in a while. And then maybe find a replacement for Dzeko.Maybe it's time to move on from him. Whether you start Mayoral or bring in another striker, I don't know. But I expect Mourinho to spend going into next year, Jerry. There can't be a way that Mourinho's not going to spend, right? He's got to have something in his contract which allows him to spend at least 40 million euros. Come on, right?
It's hard. You don't have Europa League. You don't have Champions League. I think the bigger question is, who do you sell first before you can actually buy players? That's the biggest issue here, because you can't be buying more players and taking on a lot of these heavy wages. Like there's a lot of heavy wages in this club.
So who do they get rid of though? Who do they get rid of? That's the question. Because their midfield's playing pretty well. I mean, do you sacrifice one of those guys to get a bigger piece somewhere else? I mean,
a guy like Pastore probably gets sold.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Like him,
that's a good call.
Santon. I know that he has history with Mourinho, which might work in his favor, but since he arrived with Roma, hasn't really been a factor. Yeah, it's Dzeko. He's got 1 year left on his contract. I think he's the easiest player to sell, even though his wages are $7.5 million. It's not like you're locked up with him for 5 years.
Yeah.
You're locked up. Yeah. You're locked up for 1 year. So, and it's not Ronaldo wages either. So, yeah.
And hey, maybe Kumbula gets more opportunity going to next year, right? There's a lot of potential with him defensively, So, get rid of some guys like Juan Jesus and maybe Brian Reynolds gets some opportunity here. But in terms of goalkeepers, maybe Pau Lopez has seen his last game with Roma. I mean, Mirante has been pretty steady for them. He's not that great of a goalkeeper, but maybe Fusato is someone that you can kind of build on and see what he has before you move on from him. But I think Pau Lopez, maybe it's time to move on. Isn't he like 32 as well? I forget how old he is, but
I'm not even sure. How much was Lopez? 40 million they spent?
I feel it was a lot. I don't know the exact numbers, but I feel it was a lot.
And he's been so dreadful. Other than a good Europa League this year, where it's one of those cases where he shows up in European competition, but when it comes to league play, he becomes a ghost. I don't know. This Roma team, I just think that there's a lot of missing pieces, and if Mourinho wants to spend money, he's got to think twice, because he's got to really think outside the box and kind of be different with his team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He can't think like he was 10 years ago, where he has a flexible budget and he can buy the best players. He really needs to get the best of what he has right now.
Yeah. I'm gonna put you on the spot real quick. Next year with Mourinho in, who does better, Lazio or Roma? With no knowledge of what's going to happen in the summer, based off right now.
Am I going on the base that Inzaghi's still the manager with Lazio?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Lazio. I just think they have the better starting 11, and it'll be interesting to see. I think being in the Europa League will be a little bit less stressful for them.
Back where you guys belong?
Yeah, where we belong. I just hope they don't tank the Europa League, but I just think that considering the injuries that Lazio have dealt with too, and not having a squad to compete with the Champions League has hurt them. A lot of factors. I'll go with Lazio finishes ahead of them.
Okay.
But not by much.
And then last question on these teams from this guy named Frank or something. He says, is Ciro ready for Il Nazionale? No bullshit.
You know what? I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
And I say this considering if Insigne, which is going to start on the left, I think the bigger factor is Berardi starting on the right.
I agree.
That is a guy who can really make a difference for Immobile. On the last international break, I felt that those three really made an impact for each other. The speed of Berardi kind of opens up the space like a 3-5-2 for Immobile, where he can play behind defenders. He draws players towards him the way he plays. Whereas Chiesa does not play the same way like Berardi. He kind of attacks the ball and is hoping that there's going to be like a Marici, this example, would be perfect for Chiesa because of his stature and his physicality and his size, or he can get crosses into the box. That's all Chiesa likes to play. Two different players, and I just think that if Berardi plays up front, it's a really big factor for Immobile. I just see a different player when he scored that goal. So that's just me though.
I propose we give Marici and Calhanoglu to Juventus. I'm just saying.
We're gonna go on to the next team, but I got my words for Hakan. Don't worry.
I want to apologize to everybody. You see a steering wheel here. Jerry and I are both F1 fans, and I just didn't feel like taking my steering wheel off my desk here, being lazy. Didn't show up. But speaking of not showing up, Milan hosting Cagliari, a game, where a lot is on the line. Simple for Milan. they win and they're in Champions League. All they had to do, Cagliari, who they had their fate handed to them earlier in the day, where Crotone Simi scored a late goal to secure Cagliari's position in Serie A next season. So really, this game meant nothing for Cagliari, other than they needed this to win. And so Milan, 3 points and they're in. This game, Jerry, we talked about this right in the beginning of the podcast. Utterly disappointing by them. The lineups were okay for me with Milan. Obviously you're going to see Donnarumma in goal. The back four, of Calabria, Chiar, Tomori, and Teo. Fine with that. Benacer, Kessie, the whole group. I was fine with the whole lineup, but the way they performed, there was no urgency to them at all. I thought Cagliari, if any of those two teams, looked more like the Champions League team. You would have thought, if you're looking at who's the Champions League contender, you would have thought it would have been Cagliari, not Milan in this one.
No, absolutely. And I was a Milan fan today because I hate Juventus. And if anybody who's watching today, yes, I do have an agenda against Juve, because I was asked that 5 times today at least, and I don't like Juve at all.
Surprised they keep asking you, and one time should be enough, right?
Yeah,
just to make sure.
Here's a few things I want to just say off the record, Richard.
Off the record, we're recording, right?
Or no, not off the record. Sorry, my apologies there. I just want to say some things. Firstly, I hate when people say that Napoli and Milan shouldn't be representing Serie A next season. Juventus would be better. They're weak. They don't have depth. Milan's not good enough. Throw that shit out the window, please. Because, firstly, what has Juventus done in the last 3 years in Champions League? So having Milan or Napoli cannot be any worse than having Juventus for a 4th straight season to fail under Ronaldo once again. So let's just get that out of the way, because I do believe that this Milan side were to finish top 4, they would strengthen their squad and become a much stronger team in Serie A, and one that people will remember now and start to be more scared about. On a Napoli note, I think they're probably one of the best teams in Serie A right now, and would be a very difficult team to defeat in Champions League. I just don't like that argument. It just upsets me all the time when I get to hear it. I think Pioli is taking a lot of heat, and unnecessary heat. A lot of people forget that the first half of the season was very good by Milan. It's unfortunate of what had happened in the second half. And I think the downfall is that their success was 2 seasons combined, which didn't really help as much.
Yeah.
It would have been better had that second half of the season last year had been this year, and they'd be in a position right now for the Champions League spot. But Frank said a good point on Twitter. They are a much better team as the visitors. I didn't even think about that until he said that they're not going to be playing at home.
Yep.
It's like day and night where this team,
which makes no sense. How do you not play well at San Siro? It's beyond me, but he's absolutely right. Milan's been terrible at home, but on the road they've been a different animal.
No, absolutely. I don't get it either. I guess it's a mindset thing. It's possible. Who knows? But when you put that into consideration, and even the Milan Weekly podcast guys even said this too, as well, along with Frank. And I think there's a big advantage for Milan next weekend. As bad as of a result it was today, at the end of the day, Milan still holds their own destiny. And I think that's the most important thing. That's what you have to look at.
That's the one thing as any football team would want, is having it on their own destiny, right? If you have to rely on some other results to get you in there, that's when you're like, that's terrible. You want to have it in your destiny. Now, granted, if it was playing anybody else, I'd probably be more optimistic. But Atalanta is a team who's repeatedly embarrassed Milan over the last 2-3 years. They got a manager who doesn't like Milan one bit. He'll look to dance at any opportunity he can. Really rub Steve Polillo from Milan Weekly Podcast the wrong way. It's just Atalanta is a dangerous team. You were just talking about Champions League, and what Juventus fans have been saying about Milan and Napoli. Really, the only team who has any merit to talk about in Champions League is Atalanta and their fans, because they've been the best performing Serie A club in Champions League over the last 3 years or so. So these rest of the teams, whoever it may be, to be the next 3 teams in the Champions League, they all have to step up no matter what, because what we've seen from every other Serie A club in the past 3 years has not been good enough. And Atalanta is the only one who's been going deep into the Champions League. So, this is a team that's scary, home and away. Both I'm talking about Atalanta. Having the match in your destiny is absolutely a great thing. That's what you want as a football club. Up to them now to go forward. But I still don't like the matchup against Atalanta. It scares me, and they could have got it done today. And if they don't get it, they're going to rue this big 3 points they lost today, Jerry. But yeah.
Well, they play midweek as well. Don't forget they got the Coppa Italia, so that really kind of affects Juventus and Atalanta. I'm actually curious to see who starts in that game and if who prioritizes it more. I would say Atalanta does, because they have already earned their spot into the Champions League, whereas Juventus hasn't. So that can be a benefit for Milan as well.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, that's really huge. If I'm Pioli and you want to motivate your side, I showed them the Gasperini dance last year, and that's it.
Show them that 5-0 game.
Yeah, that's all you have to do is just show the dance.
Yeah.
And how that piece of shit, sorry, I hate that guy. I hope Milan smacked him 5-0. If there's one guy that I hate, but I do respect for what he's accomplished with this side, it's Gasperini. Yeah. Like it's a mixed hate. Like you respect him for what he's accomplished and how he's been able to turn that team around with such a small budget. I agree, but his attitude sucks. Like, it's disgusting. Like, I've never seen somebody so miserable.
I remember a game against Cagliari when Maran was over there as manager, and Maran's team beat them, and he didn't want to shake his hand. He was really being a poor sport about it. I was like, oh, come on, dude. It's a loss. Get over it, But no, what he's done in terms of being a manager with a small budget, like you said, it's fantastic, no doubt about it. I mean, he's turned Atalanta from a small provincial club to one of the best Italian teams and one of the best attractive European teams overall in terms of pure skill. I mean, in terms of the Serie A brand, you probably look at Atalanta and Napoli as being the most aesthetically pleasing to watch from a neutral perspective. So you got to give absolutely credit to Gasperini, but you mentioned that they have that midweek game against Juventus for the Coppa Italia final. It's interesting. I do want to see the lineups, because it could mean. I mean, Atalanta are deep. They are one of the deepest teams in Europe. It seems like they have so many young players and they all play well. I feel like Malinovsky has he's leading the league in assists or something crazy like that, and I feel like he doesn't even play every game. So Muriel coming off the bench gets 20 goals. But what does Juventus do? Do they bring out a star lineup and go for a title, or do they sit it out and go for the Champions League? I think they're going to go for the Champions League and let Atalanta get the Coppa Italia. But then people are saying, oh, maybe Atalanta are going to lay down and let Juve win the title. I mean, who knows? I mean, I don't see that. I don't see Atalanta laying it down for anybody. They're just who they are, and they want to beat everybody. That's just my opinion, though.
I don't know. Juve's DNA is not to lose. So I just don't see them going into the Coppa Italia final not thinking to win. That's just me. I expect Ronaldo to play 100%. That's just Ronaldo. Maybe Dybala starts finally. And on Sunday, you see Morata play up front. That's a possibility. Because Dybala didn't play yesterday, so that's probably. I didn't even think about why he didn't play in the first place, and then maybe they saved him for Wednesday, so that's another option.
Yeah, it's a good call. That's a good call. I'm gonna be very curious to see that matchup. One, for the lineups for both teams, because it matters a lot going into Sunday, but also how they perform and what kind of game we're going to see. Is it going to be are we going to see the teams playing to their potential? Like Atalanta, we know they're a high tempo, love to score goals. Are they going to sit back and be conservative? We've seen that at times too in big games for them, not in Serie A necessarily, but more like in Champions League, where they're too conservative and not really playing Atalanta style that we're used to. And so that could throw things into mix. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And if Juve win, they may get confidence going into their last game. So it's still all to play for in the Champions League spots. One of the spots that is one spot left in a relegation fight as well, even though technically Benevento are more than likely going to get it. Crotone and Parma are out. But the big game today was Benevento and Crotone. Benevento were minutes away from moving on. Lapadula. I mean, Benevento missed many opportunities out of the game. They should have scored 3-4 goals in that game. They missed their opportunities. And Ceane, late in the game, 89th minute, gets a goal, 1-1. You see what it meant to the players. They all fell down from Benevento in upset and anger. So now, huge game next week against Torino, where had they won that game, they could have held destiny in their own hands. They beat Torino, they're in Serie A. But now I'm not sure what the numbers are. And if someone's in the chat knows, or Jerry, if you know, please tell me. But I know right now it's 32-35. So if Benevento win, they'll be tied on points. But I don't know what the tiebreaker is. I don't know who has a tiebreaker between Torino and Benevento. I'm curious on who's that. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that game going into next week? It's with everything that's happened in the relegation between Benevento Torino. Are you gonna be watching that game? I know I will.
Depending what time it is.
Oh, that's a good point.
Depending what time it is, because there's gonna be at least 5 games possibly.
Aren't they all playing at the same time next year? Or am I making that up?
No, they normally just the impactful games. Say Napoli, Milan.
Yeah. They'll play at the same
Napoli,
time.
Milan, Juventus, and I also think that Roma and Sassuolo as well will play at the same time. But no, not all games are at the same time. Not even last season was this case, where the non-meaningful games will be played at 9:00, and the impactful games will be played at 2:45. That's how it's going to be. I also think that Sassuolo and Roma will be played at 2:45 because the Conference League final spot. So I'm not even sure. All at 10:00.
Interesting. I'm curious.
I'm actually curious too. I haven't seen. My guess is going to be 2:45. That's me. Okay. I don't see 10:00, but I could be wrong. But yeah, with Crotone, what has to happen now? Nima told me today, and it's a really long shot. First off, Lazio has to win versus Torino on Tuesday.
Okay,
that's the first thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then between Torino and Torino and Benevento has to win now at all costs. Whereas a tie for Torino gets them in, and that's it.
Yep.
That's the likelihood for Benevento now.
All right. Well, that's a big tall ask, and you got to see what happens on Tuesday with Lazio and Torino, and then if Lazio should win that game, then all eyes are going to be on that big game next weekend to wrap it all up. I'm seriously going to watch. I mean, I love when we had the old multicultural when you had all the games going on at one time and you can switch between the games. But I guess we'll have to use many monitors or different devices to watch all the games with ESPN Plus. At least here in the States. I don't know about you. What do you got, DAZN over in Canada?
We got DAZN, we got TLN. Yeah, those are our main options. I also have Football TV to catch La Liga.
Oh, right on. Okay.
Liga on. So, yeah, anybody in here who prefers to watch another league for extra football, I do suggest League On. It's not a farmers league, by the way. It's actually a decent league.
It is good. You'd
be surprised what you would catch from the French league.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. David asked in the chat, who signs Simi next year with Crotone getting relegated? Somebody needs to. He's a 20-goal scorer. He's going to fit somewhere. Frank and I, talked about where we thought he could fit in well. Where do you see Simi fitting in next year?
So the Laziale actually reported that they're interested in signing Simi.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I read that today. But there's a lot of competition because a lot of English teams are actually interested in him. So
keep him in the league, man.
It won't be easy for Lazio, especially that they didn't make Champions League. But then again, you sell Marici, who knows, right?
Yeah.
The funds come back and you can probably sign him. I think he's a good backup. As a starter, I don't think so personally for me, but maybe other people would think differently. Depends. Yeah,
depends what team he goes to. I mean, if he goes to a top 6 team or something like that, I don't see him starting. I see him coming off the bench. Most of these teams have too many. They already have established strikers, and he'd be a good complement to those. But if he goes to a mid-table team, yeah, I don't see why he couldn't start for those teams. So, yeah, it just depends where he goes. And if he goes to somewhere like Lazio, you would imagine he'd be a sub or for at the minimum rotation player. But, yeah, it'll be interesting to see where he goes. Hopefully he stays in the league. I mean, he's been with on the peninsula for several years now. Came up with Crotone the first time in Serie A, and now he's still with them. So, Yeah, it's be interesting there. And look, hey, George is in the house. He says thanks for a shout out and let Ligon. What's up, George?
Always, George. Always. I've been watching League On for what 2-3 years. My friends always crap on me for watching it, and they think it's a butcher league. I don't believe it.
That's a good league. It's a good league.
When you think about how many players came from League On to Serie A, Osimhen, Liao, those are just two players that automatically always come to your mind. I'm pretty sure that
Koulibaly, yeah, many others.
Yes. Koulibaly's history of how he became so predominant is actually interesting, and how his first manager never actually believed in him, but that's just a side story.
Yeah. And the greatest player, of course, of Jeremy Menez. No, I'm just kidding you. He's terrible. Anyway, we're going to go real quick through the rest of the scores and then move on. Genoa putting up a fight against Atalanta. Atalanta win 4-3, goals from Zapata, Malinovsky, Gosens, and Pasalic. Eldor gave him a heart attack with 2 goals and Pandev with a penalty. But Atalanta did get all 3 points there. Spezia won 4-1 against Torino. Saponara and Zola twice, and Ehrlich get the goals for Spezia. Belotti get a penalty in the 54th. Also, Fiorentina, they lost to Napoli. Napoli with a big win. Obviously, they're doing what they need to do in the Champions League. They're pretty much guaranteed into the Champions League now. Just the way they're playing and form alone, they deserve it. Goals from Insigne in the 56th, and then Venuti an own goal from Fiorentina. 2-0 Napoli win. We mentioned Benevento Crotone 1-1 there. Udinese lost to Sampdoria. Quagliarella in the 88th minute, a penalty goal, 1-0 there. And then Sassuolo won on the road against Parma. No surprise, Parma losing again. Goals from Locatelli, De Frel, and Boga. Alves got a consolation goal in the 32nd minute, but to no avail. And there's a game tomorrow, Verona against Bologna. Both teams really are on holiday. They can't get relegated or anything, so... Well, let's skip that match. So, Jerry, anything else from these games that stood out to you?
It's actually the Milan game, not even the Lazio game. I don't care about the Lazio game, and I don't give a shit about Juve. It's just the Milan game. And Hakan, say goodbye. Let him leave. That's the first thing I got to say. This guy is such an inconsistent player that it makes me want to pull my hair out, whatever I have left.
You don't think he's worth €7.5 million euros a year?
I will constantly tweet out Luis Alberto is greater than Hakan, because I've seen so many people
no doubt
call out that Hakan is better than Alberto. If you can prove to me that Hakan is a better player than Alberto, then go ahead and sign him for a good fee. Not $7.5 million, but
numbers wise, maybe last year numbers wise, and that's even. I mean, Hakan had a really great year last year, but yeah, I'm with you. I think Luis Alberto I'd rather have Luis Alberto. At least he shows up in the big games. Hakan, I don't see them paying him what he wants. Every time we have a big game or anything big, he just hides and doesn't perform, and it's really disappointing too. And I think I'll tell you what, if Pioli doesn't get that Champions League spot, he's going to be gone too. As much as I like the guy, you're in first place as the winner champions, and then don't make it to Champions League. That's utterly disappointing. So hopefully he gets the win against Atalanta. What we do have on our side, someone tweeted out, and I apologize if I don't remember who tweeted it, but someone said Pioli did beat Gasperini not too long ago, 7-1 when he was with Inter. So maybe another masterclass is coming from Pioli against Gasperini. We'll see.
And I also think that Theo Hernandez should have came out today. He really disrupted the flow of the game. That's just how I see it. This guy is really frustrating to watch.
I didn't see one attack by him. Usually he's marauding down the left-hand side. I didn't see one time in this game where he did that. It was very negative play, I would say. And defensively, he was just poor. I mean, luckily, Tamori and Kessie were out there to kind of cover up for him. But, it was not a good game for him.
Just when you have that kind of character, it sends a bad vibe to your team. It's the morale is just not good for him, and it's been on a consistent basis where when it's not going his way, he brings the team down with him, in my opinion. And I don't want to shit on all Milan players because they weren't all bad. I think that as much as the score indicates differently, I thought Calabria was really good today. Yeah. I thought he was fantastic, and he deserves a spot with Italy in the summer. That's just me. I really do believe that this guy changed his game 100%. It's been one of the best fullbacks in Serie A. Like consistent. He was huge today. I thought Samu Castillejo should have done better with his chances, but as much as he's taken a lot of heat from a lot of Milan fans, I thought he was really one of the positive signs coming off the bench. He really made an impact.
Leao as well, I thought. Leao was
Yes.
very, very important when he came in, but still, to no avail. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with all that. I agree with that for sure. And I think Maldini needs to take one-on-one training with Teo Hernandez this summer and teach him the finer things of defensive work, and then also maybe how to act as a professional. I think out there sometimes was very disappointed in him, and I think to add more fire to my Pioli comments, his comments after the game were not kind of what I'd like to see or any Milanese would like to see, is where he was just saying like, "Oh, top four wasn't really our goal. It's not going to be a failure if we don't get it." It's like, we're not a mid-table team, buddy. This is a team that has higher aspirations in Fiorentina or somewhere else. No disrespect to them. So anyway.
What about Alessio Romagnoli maybe coming in? Would you think that would have made an impact because of his size and his physicality? Maybe that was kind of what was missing inside the goal area, where he could win challenges. I'm just saying, like, maybe that could have been. I just thought about it right now, and I also thought that Mandzukic came in way too late, way too late. I was waiting for that guy to come in 20 minutes earlier.
Yeah, I agree. No, I think Romagnoli, many people want to see him move on, and I don't know if he is comfortable in the position that he's in. I mean, Tomori has earned his starter position, and Chiar is just a freaking rock. But I think you need the three of them, and if you want to be a successful team in Serie A and then on the European front, you need to have depth. And having to have three quality center backs there is important for Milan, and if they can find a way for him to stay, because I think he should, he just has to know that maybe it's going to be a rotation basis and whoever's hot plays, because at the moment Chiar and Tomori are playing the best. But Romagnoli, El Capitano, he needs to stay, in my opinion. But we'll see what happens. I don't know if he'll want that. I see Jorge George is saying, side note with Milan, do they miss Paquetá? Yes or no? He has 2 goals today and 7+ this season. I don't think they do. I mean, him and Piatek, they both do well where they're at now, but I just, some people just can't cut it in Serie A, and unfortunately, I don't think Paqueta either got the opportunity to, or he just didn't perform. Piatek as well. So, as much as I really like Paqueta and Piatek, I don't think either of them were cut the rug for Milan, unfortunately.
I agree. Piatek, I didn't like him. Period. I just think he was a plug. I think he just had one good season with Genoa and kind of really underachieved with Milan. Just couldn't cut it with a bigger club. Whereas Paqueta, I think the expectations kind of wore on him, and a lot was expected from him, and he just kind of didn't deliver.
Didn't they call him like the next Kaká or something like that? They call him something.
Something like that. On a side note, after this whole performance today, you give Donnarumma whatever he wants.
Absolutely.
That's the main factor.
Co-owner of the team, whatever you want, give him everything.
He bailed out, as much as you said Kier has been a rock, he was not great today. Correct. And on 2 separate occasions, Donnarumma bailed him out.
Donnarumma was man of the match. No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
You don't even get that point if it's not for him.
Exactly.
He made 2 well-timed saves. And the announcer said it perfect. Even if it wasn't spectacular, it was just his positioning of where he was. And he's the best goalkeeper in Serie A, hands down. Like there's
save on Pavoletti was like you said, his positioning. He closed his legs. He was right where he's supposed to be, and then had another save where he got down low on I forget who the other one was, but no, he deserves whatever money he wants. Hakan, on the other hand, I don't think so. He can walk, in my opinion.
But it's the issue here is just these agent fees. That's what causes the biggest issue. That's what makes these contracts more ridiculous than what they really are.
Sure.
It's $12 million he wants, but of that $12 million, how much goes to his agent? I think that's what we always forget.
Well, we always heard about Raiola, what he got from after Pogba got that huge deal. He ended up getting like a villa in Italy. So I mean, they get a lot of money. I mean, then this guy is a super agent. He has all the biggest clients too, so he's gonna get what he wants, and hopefully Donnarumma sticks to his guns. If he really wants to stay at Milan, he needs to step up and say it and say like, hey, you need to figure it out, but I'm staying here. So.
Would you be upset if he left? I personally, as a Milan fan, wouldn't, and I'll say why.
Okay.
He's earned his right to say I can go somewhere else. Like if he wants Champions League, I guess
Especially if Milan don't make it next year. Yeah.
like these players see the future too, and if they don't make Champions League, it could be another difficult season where they may have to sell players instead of buying players. We don't know what the situation can be like.
Yeah.
And these guys in the dressing room are told what the situation probably is, or in the room, whatever it may be.
So somebody's ears must be burning because we're talking about Milan and someone's infiltrating our chat. But before I bring him in, I want to say my comments on your question there. If he leaves for a rival in Serie A, Juventus, Inter, something like that, yes, I'm going to be furious. If he leaves for another club, especially if we don't make Champions League, I'm not going to be upset. He deservedly earns that right. They're obviously Milan are looking to Magnan from I forget what club he is for in Ligue from Lille, right? So he's a very good goalkeeper, and so they have someone planned just in case he goes. But if he goes to Juve or Inter, I'd be furious. And on that note, speaking of furious, I'm going to bring in a guy who's always furious, it seems like, Frank Crivello. What's up, Frank?
Hey, I thought I would crash the party tonight.
You heard Milan and you just jumped right in. Look at that. I like it.
Oh, I was listening to you guys for a while here, and I figured, all right, I gotta bring some normalcy to what's going on here.
Please do.
I gotta bring some positive vibes. Listen, first of all, the Milan Cagliari game. I mean, Milan were gassed. Let's just start there. And I even made the comment. I said it on Twitter. I said they shot their load, beating Juve and blowing away Torino. And now you get a Cagliari team. I mean, would we have all been happy as Milan fans to see Cagliari say, hey, you're safe. Go spend a couple hours at the bars, get smashed. We'll see you at the San Siro. Yeah, we would have been happy with that. But they played determined. They played as if they still had something to play for. I like what Stuart Robson had to say about them on the broadcast, saying that, look, I don't think they're happy with where they are because they're too good for it. Yeah. And they wanted to prove that. Diego Godin was Atletico Madrid Diego Godin today. I mean, just balled out, had that team organized, and had them defending brilliantly. And you wonder, and it just makes you wonder, where was that all season long? And, of course, as Milan fans, we had to put up with it. It was a lot of possession from Milan, but it lacked the final ball. It just lacked the final ball every time. You were looking for it each time, and then when it was there, an extra touch was taken that didn't need to be taken. I think there was one late in the second half where Teo was played in and said, just have it, young man, have it. And in most situations, it's almost like they were gun shy, like they didn't want the responsibility at times either, too. So, it's a combination of things. I thought, I thought through the first two-thirds, Milan were fine. It's when they got to that final third when Cagliari really bunkered down and got organized, and a lot of that had to do with Godin between his own individual defending and between organizing everything else. I think that created all of the problems, and you don't have, the guys that can unlock, you don't have an Ibrahimovic who can occupy some people to help open some space for other people, and that's where an Ibrahimovic was missed. I think that Brahim Diaz just got tired. I think that Salamaker's got tired. I think, as much as everybody groaned about Leao and Castillejo coming on,
they were the two best players offensively.
Yeah, Pioli had to do it out of necessity. They were tired.
Yeah.
So
there's that chance where he should have had the ball in Castillejo instead of kicking it. That was the chance where they should have scored. I thought that's the one chance where it was placed to him on a platter, and again, players trying to do more than what they're supposed to. That's the issue here.
Yeah, I mean, as much as we want to sit here and moan and groan about Milan's performance, I think you have to give an absolute ton of credit to Cagliari for the way they played and for the way they performed. And honestly, Cagliari should have won the game had it not been for Donnarumma. Made a brilliant save on Pavoletti and probably made the save of the season just minutes after that. I can't remember.
We couldn't remember who it was. Yeah,
who had the ball.
Man of the match for me, obviously. I mean,
he kept him in. I mean, Godin's my man of the match. But I mean, if you want just to leave it exclusively to the Milan players, then absolutely, it was Donnarumma.
You were saying where was this Cagliari all season? I think you've alluded this to many times. First off, Di Francesco being the manager of Cagliari was the biggest issue. He killed Sampdoria last year, and he killed Cagliari this year.
Yeah.
Hanging on to him was the biggest issue. Bringing in Semplici, where I actually said this on Twitter, was the right decision. A lot of people thought it was no better. We forget this guy really did a good job with Spal and taking them up, I believe, from Serie C to Serie A.
Yep.
So this is not just some guy who is. This is the perfect mid-table team manager that comes in and can get the best out of a mid-table team. That's what they did here. Finally, the problem was that it was a little too late to get them higher than where they are, but it was in time to save their season. If you get what I'm trying to say, since he's arrived, no one can say that they haven't been much better under him.
Yeah,
I think this is day and night with this team, where they play more confident, and I think the biggest thing is they have an identity. That's the biggest issue that they were lacking at the beginning of the year, where they just didn't know what they were doing. They lost to a Lazio side, I remember earlier in the year, were 1-0, and it was just lackluster against Simone Inzaghi, where he just picked them apart.
Yeah,
what was just too easy. With Semplici, he really came with a plan today, and he made it difficult for Pioli.
Organized.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
That's where this Cagliari side was, and this game really reminded me a lot of the 3-0 loss versus Lazio. It really did, and a lot of similarities.
To follow up on your point, Jerry, I think the other thing that really hurt, and because I said, I think Sampdoria was a different beast because he was given square pegs to put in round holes for the system that he likes to play. I think he had a 4-3. He likes to play 4-3-3, and I think his three when he was starting off were 3 out-and-out strikers. I want to say it was like Quagliarella, Gabbiadini, and Caprari or something like that.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Gabbiadini was playing off to the right, and it's just so I don't think he was given the hand that he needed to be successful at Sampdoria. He was given the hand and the personnel to have a chance at Cagliari, and his message just didn't get across. So that's where, I certainly think there was a regression with them. The other thing that Semplici did that separated him from Di Francesco, Semplici said, I don't care who your dad is, Cholito, you're not good enough right now. You're not playing. I'm giving Pavoletti a shot. Okay.
Yeah.
It was time to take the toy away from him. Di Francesco just couldn't do it. And I think that was also part of his downfall. A guy who just lacked confidence at every turn.
And now you see João Pedro and Pavoletti. They know where they play so well together. They can find each other all the time. They did it several times in this game as well. So I mean, about time.
That's actually a good point you say that, and that's a good show, Frank. Seriously, because a lot of people forget that Pavoletti took a season off, I believe, last year after a serious injury. And this is a guy prior to his injury who provided a lot to Cagliari and has the ability to score goals. So he was really good today. And he had one quality chance, I believe, that, like you said earlier, where he almost scored. Like, you're right. And going with Simeone for so long, and he just didn't provide anything in the final third was a good decision by Semplici.
Right. And, I'll tell you this. I think that Pavoletti is the perfect striker. Look at everybody around him. You got João Pedro who can play off of him. You got Lico Janis who can provide service. You got, whoever they use at the right wing back position that can provide service. Marin on his set pieces, and then just early balls in from the middle. You don't need a what the characteristics of Pavoletti is a much better fit for this Cagliari outfit than Simeone is, in my opinion. So, but I mean, it was a Godin masterclass. And everybody else, it rubbed off on everybody else. And Cagliari should be applauded as much as Milan Twitter right now, who I am trying to say, hey, stay with me on this, guys. We still control our destiny. And Jerry, you highlighted my point earlier. We go to Atalanta. It's an away match. Milan have been very good away this season. They've pulled rabbits out of their hat. We're going to get an Atalanta team on their 5th game in the space of 17 days, okay, where Milan are going to get an entire week off to rest, regroup and get ready for this game. They were gassed today. It was going to be a lot to ask to come anywhere close to replicating the performance of what they had against Torino. I had no delusions that they were going to go in and win 7-0 again, and I hope most of Milan Twitter didn't either.
Yeah. Would have been nice to see, but
Oh yeah, shit. I would be. I wouldn't be having water right now.
Yeah, me neither.
So yeah, and I probably wouldn't have jumped on with you guys. I would have been in the bag already between this and my niece's first communion. So, but that's the reality. I mean, you're not out of it. Don't give. I mean, my message to Milan Twitter, and I'm going to keep telling them, don't give up. There's one game left. We control our destiny. We just have to win. And I don't care how we do it. We just have to win. Yeah, you could very well see Gasperini completely shoot his load trying to win this trophy on Wednesday against Juventus and playing his best players and seeing Zapata and Muriel with Ilicic. And then on Sunday, we get Lammers, okay? And then we get some of these other guys.
All right? Pretty so good, so.
Yeah. Yeah, Lammers is still pretty good.
Yeah, so, Moranchik too. Yeah.
Yeah, Moranchik. Yeah,
they're deep. They're very deep.
Guys, but guys that don't have a sample size of playing together.
Sure.
So
I just hope
hang in there. It's not lost. We're not depending on anybody else. It's on us. It's on Milan. Go and get the job done. Go and get the 3 points. Yeah. And we just got to wait. It's still there. We just got to wait a little longer. It's what it is.
I just hope that for Milan's sake, they don't show up like a Lazio side last Saturday against Fiorentina, where so much was still at stake, and no one expected Fiorentina to all of a sudden just come out with like play like a top 4 team and just stick it right to Lazio. Yep. That's where I kind of get concerned a little bit with Milan, where they did. You're right, like Lazio, they had the week off, showing good form. I still think Milan's in good form at the moment, regardless of what the result was today, because you haven't lost in the past 3, 4, 5 matches. Yeah. So that's really important. But I just hope they come in with the right mindset and ready to go. This whole game is on Pioli now. However Pioli decides to go, he has to get it right, or else he'll be pegged as a failure for a long time. That's what I see it as, and that's how Richard said it before. As much as he did it, I credit him for what he's done the first half of the season. I think he's done a decent job in the second half. Hasn't been great, hasn't been all bad, but now is the time where this is where he proves, do I get that shot to stay long-term with Milan and the project works, or does it fail next Sunday and say, shit, we're going back again and we got to go with a new manager and a new freaking direction again. And then Milan's future is in the balance next Sunday. I guess that's how you can put it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Good point.
Yep. I mean, or it could just be on hold for another season. And then Elliott continues to get creative with how this team is shaped, with the help of guys like Maldini in the back room to get it recruited and to have it positioned to try and go and chase this thing again next year. So, so it's what it is. I'm going to sign off and let you guys continue to have at it, but I did want to give my take on the Juventus Inter game. I don't want to get into Calvarese. It's only going to raise my blood pressure. I think nothing needs to be said. It was a complete horror show. Here's what angers me, and it's leading voices, English-speaking voices of Calcio here on this side of the pond, who have the balls to tweet that the refereeing went always fine. It probably did, but to sit there and say that your team was hungrier than the other team, bullshit. If Juve was hungrier than Inter, then Conte wouldn't have ran out his best 11. Okay? And Conte's 11 played hard. Okay? That game was chippy. There's 10 yellow cards for a reason, and it wasn't all dissent. That game was intense for 90-plus minutes, and both teams wanted it. It is one of my biggest pet peeves of all time. My team wanted it more than your team. That is a lazy take. It's an atrocious take. Okay? It had nothing to do with how Juventus won the game. Okay, Juventus won the game. Listen, Inter had to get their goals, their penalty and their goal, VAR checked, all right, and approved. Had to, all right? And everybody sat there and talked about the penalty against Lautaro Martinez. I got news for you, boys and girls. That's a penalty.
Yep.
All right,
We
that
both
is
said
a
the same thing.
stonewall penalty. If you lunge and you catch his foot, whether you meant to do it or not, that is a penalty.
Yep.
Stop deluding yourself into believing that it's not. Okay, and then we have to go to VAR because Calvarese is too blind to see Chiellini tackling Lukaku to the ground, and the ball hits off of Chiellini's ass and goes in. All right, I mean, we got to go to VAR for that. I mean, this was just and Inter were battling. They were trying to win the game, and then Perisic gets a penalty called against them for doing absolutely nothing wrong. What else is he supposed to do there? All right? So don't sit there and say that Juventus won this game because they were hungrier and that they wanted it more. That's bullshit. All right? And I'm getting sick and tired of guys who lead vocally and thousands of followers. You basically, that is your message, and that is going to be your take. You are sending thousands of followers down the wrong path. It was a terrible take. I was disgusted with it. I flat out retweeted and called it atrocious. I'm not going to say his name. I think you guys can take a guess at who it was. All right? But it had nothing to do with who wanted it more. All right? It had everything to do with Juventus got out of there very, very lucky to get the 3 points. That on another day, that's a draw. Okay? And with a referee that has half a brain, that's a draw. End around.
Yeah, I'm not sure who you're referring to.
Poor Alex Donald's not here to defend himself. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I don't think it was Donald, to be honest.
We'll figure it out after the podcast.
But,
I told you in the private chat. I'm just not going to say it here on the podcast.
Yeah.
But
if he makes another stupid take like that again, then I am going to call him out.
But here's the thing, okay? And I called them out today, and I put a picture of how Chiellini was taken down in the box, and then you see Biraghi have a whole fist on Osimhen, and I said, Calvarese only has one agenda, right? Help Juve and not Napoli. And then the second one that had to go to VAR, and it was I forgot whose arm was being held down in the box, and they gave Napoli a penalty. But I hate this freaking notion where they were both holding each other. And I forgot who it was, which Napoli player it was. Maybe you guys remember.
The one Zelensky got the one they're holding Zelensky?
Yeah,
that one?
I think it's the Zelensky, and he falls to the ground.
And you know who the referee was for that game? Abiso, who has the highest yellow card average per game of all of these referees. Over 5.5 yellow cards a game. You don't think somebody was trying to set something up?
I just think that I hate this. Well, they're holding each other. You see Zelensky's arm there's a full grip on him, and it's going down to the ground. It's a penalty, and the first one should have been a penalty too. I don't like when a player in the box is being held with a hand on him. It's not given. It's given. It's not given in a lot of games. I think the consistency is that you have to give that as a penalty because you're obstructing a player's ability to win the ball. You know what I mean? 99% of the time inside the midfield, outside the box, it's always given. Why is it different inside the box? It drives me nuts. There's got to be consistency. If you're holding someone like this, it doesn't matter. It's happened to Cherby. I remember Cherby got a call like that this year where he's holding a player on the shirt. Like it's. And I agree with it. It's if you as a defender, I know that you don't have a lot of freedom, but you need to learn how to body yourself. And if you can't, look at Chiellini on that second goal where, like you said, it went to VAR and Inter scored with the own goal on him. Mm-hmm. And he had to hold him on good. He had good body positioning, but he still holds Lukaku for no reason. And then he gives the own goal. That could have all been avoided by him if he just manned up and played right instead of holding him. Like these are defenders that are just not properly positioning themselves, and they are in a good position to defend well. It just blows my mind. Like I just don't agree with it. If you give two hands on a player and you're holding him down, it's a penalty. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. That's just the end of the day. Like,
all right.
But
well, I'm going to turn you guys loose. You guys are doing amazing. Keep it up. I just wanted to come in and give the Milan perspective from my end, and also give a little rant on the Juve Inter. So,
thank you, thanks, Frank.
All right,
See you next week.
I'll be on next week, everybody.
All right, see you, man.
$2.
Take care.
Oh, go Bucks. Oh, man. Well, since Frank was here and he brought us all down with his anger. No, I'm just kidding. Nah, he has good points. But let's make it more lighthearted now, Jerry. Let's go to America's favorite hashtag game. Who won Calcio Twitter? Are you ready for this, Jerry?
Yes, sir.
You're going to be ready with it, whether you're ready or not. All right. All right, can you see my screen here? So going with the first one. This one comes from Las Vegas Atalanta supporters group. It says, being a mister is like fine wine. Gets better with age, unless you start out with shit grapes. That's pretty good there. All right, moving on. This one comes in from Art Morelli. He says, 9 goals in 2 games in Piemonte. Credit to club legend Andrea Pirlo for turning AC Milano's season around. Oh, that's a good one. That's actually a good one there. All right, this one's nominated by Ferrigno. This is from Stefchenko. It says, does the winner get his month's salary? And this is Martinez versus Conte in a boxing match. Inter having fun. They obviously won the Scudetto, and so they can do what they want with their practice. But that's a funny take there. All right, let's see. Frank said, Inter preparing for the Derby d'Italia with a boxing match between Conte and L'Arturo, and having a barbecue. That's who won Calcio Twitter by itself there. All right, next one comes from Milan Weekly Podcast and nominating. This is from Gab Tassioni, and it's basically a press conference with Comiso going off on the journalists, talking about fake news and disrespecting him, and I mean he goes on this rant. You need to listen to this rant. Jerry, did you get a chance to see this rant yet?
Yeah, I actually saw it, man. I gave him full respect for that. Actually,
yeah, I do too. They could call him like a gangster and stuff, and big ups to him for coming out and doing that. So, all right, this one comes from us from Christian, and let's make a play here. It's not
Don't flirt with him.
Oh, Tancredi again, and with this one, that's funny right there. Christian, it's at Von Stranino with the tweet there. So this next one comes from J Club. It's at Black Gianni. Says Juventus looking for teams to sell Ronaldo to, and everyone's going away. Running around, can't find anybody. I think we got a leader in the clubhouse right here. Excuse me. All right, this next one comes from at Zoe_GEKS. It says, can't believe Liao owes me 10,000. So on his shirt it says, if you waste my time, it's going to be $150 an hour. So she says, you can't believe you owe me $10,000. Oh, that's good. All right, this was from Tancredi himself. He says, come Antonio Conte entra nello Juventus Stadium. So how Antonio Conte enters Juventus Stadium, and it's fire starter. Oh, with the face app. That's a funny one. That's funny.
He's a character.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, Juventus chiming in here. It's at the Juventini. Says, Juventini, what do you mean Morata instead of Dybala? Pirlo, fine, no strikers for you. Pirlo does what he wants. It works sometimes, and most times it doesn't. All right. At Finally Case says, I make meme. It says, me explaining all the possible outcomes to get in the top 4 to random strangers on the bus. That's how I read Milanisti right now. Okay, this one comes in from at Finally Haji. It says, if Inter wins, Milan finishes top 4. If they draw or lose, I can stat pad 10 likes with Juventus away. Isn't for everyone. Nice. All right, not bad there. All right, someone nominated Frank and says, all of Calcio Twitter is vulnerable to getting a yellow card from Calvarese at this point. Yeah, he was giving it to everybody at this point. All right, Art Morelli back in this. He says, the CDC is recommending that fully vaccinated persons still wear a mask and practice social distancing around Juventini. I wasn't sure where that was going with that one. That's funny.
That's good.
That is really good. Jerry, you get into the act here. Says, Lazio's back where they belong. Europe's most prestigious tournament, the Europa League. They return after one season and are back in their rightful place. Nice. All right, Frank nominating Adam Digby. He says, I would offer some post-match analysis on Juve Inter, but when I reached for my phone to tweet, this guy ran in, booked me, and awarded a penalty. Okay. Let's see. Rafa Rispo brings Joe Fischetti gets a nomination here. Says absolutely shocked that Fiorentina hasn't been awarded a penalty yet for tomorrow's match. This was tweeted the day before the match. Rafa at it again. It says this is from Art Morelli again. So Martino says you're not a fan of The Price is Right, and Art says there you go. The Juve. Art is on fire tonight, man. Oh man. All right, let's see here. Okay, this comes from Don Tico Interlover. So the original tweet was, this man really ended Milan's 27-game unbeaten run and Inter's 20-game unbeaten run. And then so Don Tico says, and Juventus' 9-year unbeaten winning Scudetto run as well. Oh, right. And I think there's two more, looks like. Okay. At Rosso Magnoli says, when I die, I want these Milan players to lower me in the grave so they can let me down one last time. And then the last one tonight, Derby della Capitale, Dzeko holding a cherry.
That's good. That's good.
That's my winner there. That's my winner right there, Jerry. I don't know about you.
That's so good. I'm sorry,
At Subra 45.
Who's this guy?
I don't know. That's the first time we're here, but that's a great first tweet there.
Oh wow, oh my god.
That is the winner for me, folks. I think that's the unanimous winner there, huh, Jerry?
Yeah, I don't even care if it's wrong. I like banter like that. It's so good, man.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
That's great right there. So at Subaru45, you are this week's winner of Who Won Calcio Twitter, and we are getting near the end of the season here, so we are going to have tweet of the season. Maybe have some guests on to help with all the fun tweets of the year. But yeah, Jerry, unanimous winner, Dzeko holding up a Cherby.
Oh man, that is
actually no. There was another one that I can't find, but it was I think it was Art Morelli again, where it was Manolas opened up his wallet and giving back Vlahovic to Comiso, I think is what it was. I don't know why I didn't show up, but yeah, that was a funny one too. But this one, recency bias right here, there.
so good, man.
So good. All right, Jerry, I think that'll put a bow on this one. Why don't you take your time, plug away. First of all, thank you for joining me tonight on the show as in Frank's absence. Plug away. Let us know what you got going on and where we can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me at jmancini8, basically writing for the Laziale and Serpents of Modenina, and I guess when the season's done, I'll probably be doing some MLS stuff for World Football Index once I get the chance, but that's about it for me.
Very good. Make sure you give a follow, a like, and subscribe to the Calcio Connection. And Jerry, those guys do great work over there. We've been guests several times, and we're thankful for that. As always, you can follow me at R_KHARMAN. You can follow Frank Ravello at FTC_21. We can be found on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You name it, we're there. Same thing with streaming. We stream all over. You name the streaming service, we are streaming from that there as well. So make sure you give us a follow, listen, and like. And until the next podcast comes, my friend, from Frank, from Jerry, and myself, we say we'll catch you soon. Ciao.